Oh, hello again. It's me, your student teacher. Today we reviewed the other two empires we talked about yesterday, which were the Akkadian Empire and the Babylonian Empire. And then we started talking about the Assyrian Empire and the Neo-Babylonian Empire today. So the Assyrian Empire, a few things about them was that they were ruthless and it said they would force entire populations to leave certain areas so they could conquer that area. They also developed new ways of attacking cities. For instance, they developed this type of battering ram, which was a heavy wheeled beam where they used to break down the walls. So the Assyrians were pretty ruthless, and their military strategies were pretty important to them. Go ahead and pause, and you can read this section. The next section is a little bit more about life under the Assyrian Empire. Talked about their capital city, Nineveh, and they were known for their bas reliefs, these two-dimensional shapes in this picture, or two-dimensional sculptures in this picture over here. And the Assyrian Empire lasted about 300 years, they said, until a combined army of the Babylonians, Scythians, and the Medes attacked them and took over. Okay, so go ahead and pause here and read this section. Click on to the next section, and we're going to talk about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The Neo-Babylonian Empire was ruled by Nebuchadnezzar. That was kind of a hard word, try to say that. He was a huge military person as well. He built inner and outer walls for his city, so they had extra protection for their cities. These walls that they built were so thick that 2 chariots could drive on top of them. They're so large, okay? Go ahead and pause here and you can read that section. And then move on to section 8, life in the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Neo means new, so you can say Neo-Babylonian or the New Babylonian. In this section, it talked about his beautiful palace, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which became one of the great wonders of the ancient world. And it also talked about how the Babylonians were super skilled in math and astronomy. And so they were the ones that created the first sundial. I'll be honest, I don't really know what a sundial is, but here is some pictures of what a sundial is. They created that. The sundial was a device that uses the sun to tell time. So then they were the people that created or discovered our 60 minutes in an hour and our 7 days in a week. And so this empire lasted about 75 years until a new conqueror came around. Okay, so you can go ahead and read sections 4 through 8 about 5 through 8. We talked about the Assyrian Empire, and then we also talked about the Neo-Babylonian Empire. A reminder of the assignment that you guys had yesterday was to watch that 4 Empires of Mesopotamia video and then fill out the fill in the blank worksheet. Now I'm going to tell you about your next assignment. This one's going to be super fun. You're making another clips video. So if you remember, we made a clips video on culture. We're going to make another clips video, but this time you get to choose which empire you want to talk about. You can choose the Akkadian Empire, you can choose the Babylonian Empire, you can choose the Assyrian Empire, or you can choose the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And I have a rubric for you. This rubric is also on Schoology, which I'll show you where it is. In your video, in your clips video, these are the things I want you to talk about. Talk about their leaders. Were they a ruthless leader? Talk about their military achievements. Did they build certain things to help them make a stronger military, like their bigger walls? Or one of the empires built this battering ram. You could talk about that. You could talk about their advances in technology, such as the sundial. Then you also have to talk about advances in agriculture and how that affected the people. Hint, you could talk about trade. You could also talk about their irrigation systems if they created a new one. We talked about aqueducts in one of the empires. Then I want you to talk about their government. Maybe some of their laws, like if you did the Babylonians, you could talk about Hammurabi's code of laws and how intense those laws were. And then the last section is just some other little achievements that they had or other fun facts about